Fellow time travelers and ancient mystery hunters, welcome back to Historia, your gateway to the world's most incredible archaeological secrets. I'm your archaeological guide, ready to take you on another mind-bending journey through the corridors of time. What if I told you that hidden somewhere in Egypt lies a labyrinth so magnificent, so colossal, that it makes even the Great Pyramid of Giza look small in comparison? A monumental complex so breathtaking that even the famous Pyramid of Khufu pales beside it? The Labyrinth of Hawara is far more than just a historical myth. This is a well-documented site that was visited and described in incredible detail by renowned historians like Herodotus himself. But here's the burning question that haunts archaeologists today. Why is there absolutely no trace left of this architectural masterpiece? How is it possible? How could one of the most magnificent structures ever seen by humanity simply vanish without a trace? Today, we're going to show you what Herodotus and others said about this giant mystical labyrinth and reveal the blazing hot trail that a team of researchers has discovered. Stay tuned if you want to know whether we're on the verge of making one of the most spectacular archaeological discoveries of all time. At first glance, the claim that a colossal labyrinth lies sleeping somewhere in Egypt seems quite astonishing. After all, archaeologists have had plenty of time over recent centuries to uncover the stone remains of the pharaonic empire's inhabitants. But that doesn't mean we've already discovered all the secrets of the ancient Egyptians. Quite the contrary, even the famous Pyramid of Khufu has only been explored 10% so far.
When we talk about structures that haven't yet been brought to light, we must remember that these aren't just historical rumors, but sites that have been mentioned multiple times, visited, and described by different personalities. It's especially the accounts of the Greek historian Herodotus that continue to fuel archaeological research to this day. More precisely, these are the descriptions immortalized for posterity around 430 years before Christ in Herodotus's Histories.
To say that the ancient historian was impressed by Egyptian buildings would be an understatement. Here's what this master chronicler wrote, and prepare to be amazed.
I have seen the labyrinth. It defies all description. If you took all the walled structures and other buildings of Greece and put them together, they would not represent as much work and money as this single labyrinth. Certainly the pyramids were indescribable, and each of them surpassed many great works of the Greeks, but the labyrinth surpasses even the pyramids.
Can you imagine that? The man who had seen the greatest wonders of the ancient world was saying that this Egyptian labyrinth surpassed everything, including the pyramids themselves. But Herodotus, deeply amazed, also gave us a detailed glimpse of this impressive site's layout. The oversized temple reportedly comprised 12 covered courtyards whose doors faced each other and were surrounded by a single wall. Each courtyard was surrounded by gleaming white columns, and in total, the complex had no fewer than 3,000 rooms distributed equally between the upper level and the lower level. However, these weren't simple rooms, but places adorned with breathtaking paintings and mystical hieroglyphics. During his visit to the labyrinth, Herodotus was only allowed to admire the chambers located above ground. According to the Egyptian guards, this was because the underground chambers housed the sarcophagi of kings and sacred crocodiles. Here's where things get absolutely mind-blowing. Herodotus described what he was allowed to see like this.
The upper chambers that I was able to see with my own eyes are truly a superhuman work. At the corner, at the end of the labyrinth, stands a pyramid of 40 fathoms on which enormous figures are carved. An underground passage leads inside the pyramid. But an even greater wonder is offered by Lake Moeris, on whose shores this labyrinth is built. You can clearly see that it was created by man and dug artificially. In the middle of the lake stand two pyramids rising 50 fathoms above the water and sinking just as much into it. On both pyramids sits a colossal stone image, a figure seated on a throne.
Now let me break down these incredible measurements for you. The historical unit of length called a fathom corresponded to the distance between the outstretched arms of an adult man, approximately 6 feet according to modern measurements. This means that the pyramid that, according to Herodotus, was at the end of the labyrinth rose 230 feet above everything else. The structures in the lake reached an incredible height of 590 feet if you count the part that was underwater. And remember, the original height of the Pyramid of Khufu, which was considered the world's tallest structure for thousands of years, is estimated at only 481 feet. In light of this information, you might think that Herodotus got carried away with unfounded exaggerations in his impressive descriptions. That's a perfectly valid objection, but it weakens somewhat when we remember that the ancient Greek was by no means the only one to attest to the labyrinth's existence.
According to him, the ancient authors Strabo, Manetho, Pomponius Mela, Pliny the Elder, and Diodorus of Sicily were also super impressed by the site's size and splendor. And even if their descriptions aren't as detailed as Herodotus's, they still deserve our attention. Strabo, for example, claimed to have also visited the labyrinth and reported that there were hidden chambers behind doors so large and numerous. Moreover, the individual passages were so confusing that it was impossible for strangers to find their way without a guide's help. Pliny the Elder's account goes in the same direction, describing the complex as a confusing labyrinth of paths. The Greek historian Diodorus of Sicily expressed himself thus on this subject. As soon as you entered the sacred complex, you discovered a temple framed by 40 columns on each side. The building had a roof made of a single stone, covered with tablets decorated with superb paintings. It contained the memories of each king's homeland as well as the temples and sacrifices that had been made there.
What's particularly stunning is that all the descriptions of the labyrinth by various contemporary witnesses agree in their essence and in many details. In this context, it seems anything but far-fetched that the complex wasn't just a fictional legend, but a real place. But if this is really the case, a fundamental question immediately arises. Where is the labyrinth actually hiding, and why hasn't any archaeologist managed to find it yet? If we believe the accounts of Herodotus and others, the ancient Egyptian labyrinth can undoubtedly be described as the eighth wonder of the ancient world. Shouldn't experts be doing everything possible to awaken this magnificent site from its centuries-old slumber? Well, the truth is that some of them are working on it. We're thinking especially of the Mataha Expedition, a scientific project that wants to finally bring the legendary labyrinth back to reality. Unsurprisingly, the first step was to narrow down the potential search area. For this, the experts relied on Herodotus's description. As mentioned above, he said that the complex was on the shore of Lake Moeris, more precisely opposite the city of Crocodiles. In all likelihood, the historian was referring to the city of Fayum, called Crocodilopolis in Greek.
And indeed, south of Fayum, there was really a fascinating archaeological site that could be directly linked to the lost labyrinth. More specifically, it's the tomb of Pharaoh Amenemhat III with the so-called Hawara pyramid, which forms the heart of the royal necropolis. First documented in 1839 by British Egyptologist John Shea Peering, this pyramid was then studied by other researchers like Carl Richard Lepsius. And even though Lepsius was able to...
Fellow ancient mystery hunters, this is where our story takes an incredible turn. Recent ground-penetrating radar surveys and satellite imaging have revealed massive underground structures near the Hawara pyramid that match exactly what Herodotus described over 2,000 years ago. What we're about to discover next will absolutely blow your mind and could rewrite everything we know about ancient Egyptian architecture. But that's a revelation for our next archaeological adventure. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because you won't want to miss what happens when we finally uncover the secrets of the lost Labyrinth of Hawara. What do you think, fellow time travelers? Could this legendary labyrinth really be waiting beneath the Egyptian sands,